Uh-oh. What happened to user throwaway181718? Let's find out.
Stories on Reddit carry a certain, very special type of weight. While ARGs and creepy internet web series are definitely notable topics to talk about, I feel that incredibly strange, real-life narratives have a certain appeal to them that seems more intimate. As we know, Reddit allows for an extra layer of immersion that isn't found on most other social media websites. Since you're unable to make your profiles private on the platform, it allows the opportunity for just about anyone to read through Redditors' post histories.
Thank you.
This concept, coupled with anything that might be shared by a user, allows us to get an inside look on the lives behind the usernames, and oftentimes, these can prove to be extremely intriguing. Because of this non-privacy concept, users will often resort to making throwaway accounts with the sole purpose of interacting on just one post or comment thread. It's commonly done to prevent people from digging through their online history, but, depending on the context provided, has some mixed results. Tonight, we're going to discuss a throwaway account that I recently discovered by the name of throwaway181718.
It's recent.
About 2 years ago, they made a post in the Confessions subreddit about their incredibly bizarre experience with an unnamed cult. Being completely fascinated by his story, I decided to do a little digging and stumbled upon quite a few oddities. Because of this, I wanted to bring you along for the ride. We're going to press through his story before picking it apart to theorize on what might have happened to this anonymous user. So buckle down, because it's time to investigate the mystery of the Redditor that escaped a cult.
I find it almost impossible to not escape a cult.
Our story begins on January 29th, 2017.
But maybe I'm being insensitive.
A Redditor by the name of throwaway181718 had made a post to the Confessions subreddit with the title, "I was in a cult." Here, he explains in great detail his incredibly bizarre experience as he was enticed to join a so-called summer camp for people that have mental illnesses. Now, quick side note, I haven't exactly done any story narrations on my channel, but to get the full picture of this, I'm going to present his short story to you in its entirety. So if you have popcorn or a snack nearby, grab it, because we're about to go all in before we pick his story apart.
It's snacky time, hurry!
I was in a cult. Firstly, apologies for my anonymity. I don't want this to get back to me, but I haven't told anyone about this. I need to get it off my chest. 3 years ago, when I was in college, I was suffering with severe depression. I took medication and attended therapy and group therapy. One day in my group therapy, our therapist told us that there's a man here to talk to us. For reasons, let's call him Bob. Bob was really energetic, really friendly and understanding. He spoke to us on our level, a bunch of vulnerable teenagers. He told us about a group therapy holiday. We would go away over the summer holidays and do some cool things like rafting, rock climbing, etc. He explained that it was completely free because the college would pay for us to go, and it lasts 5 weeks. Not many people were interested, but I decided to ask him a few questions after the session. He told me it was all about adventure, making friends, and having fun, whilst continuing our therapy. I asked for some details off him, but he didn't have a card, so we asked for mine. Stupidly, I gave him my phone number, email address, and home address. Later that night, I was telling my parents about it. They seemed a little suspicious, but I was trying to convince them. Whilst we were talking, there was a knock at my door.
That's already a lot of information.
It was Bob. My dad welcomed him in, and he spoke to both of them, explaining that it's good for my mental health, and it's also a lot of experiences, as well as completely free. After talking for a while, my parents agreed that I could go. They filled out some paperwork, and the next time I saw Bob was when I got on the coach, with lots of other people around my age. Bob was really enthusiastic, and everyone looked excited, albeit we were all having mental health issues. Bob explained that on our first day, we would be doing an adventure course in building a raft to help with teamwork with our fellow campers. We drove north to a walled-off campsite, and it was huge. As we got off the bus, everyone had to go for a physical checkup. It was uncomfortable, but I assumed it was to make sure that we could take part in the events. The doctor was very thorough. When we left, we couldn't find our suitcases,
Wow.
so we guessed they were brought to our rooms. But when we got to our rooms, they weren't there either.
Wow.
I asked Bob and he said that we weren't allowed them and that we weren't allowed our phones either. He asked for all of our phones. Me and the other boys in the room refused, but then he said that it was in the contract we signed. Reluctantly, we all gave up our possessions and he gave us these ugly tracksuits to wear because he, quote, didn't want our nice clothes to get...
I mean, like, it's a contract. It's like one of those social contracts, you know, like, I'm sorry, but if you're going to be at our camp, you're going to have to follow the contract. Like, at that point, why wouldn't you just start being upset at that point?
dirty.
And leave and want to
We
get
did some
out.
activities and they were fun, but then we all went for
You
dinner.
know?
Before anyone started eating, one of the group leaders said that we all
It's
should
in
pray.
your contract.
I'm not religious, and there was no indication that this was a religious group, so I was a bit confused. The group leader said that we should all say thanks to the gods for bringing us all together. I thought this was weird, but assumed that he was just being inclusive of everyone's religions. Later that night, we all went to bed. Whilst we were in bed, another group leader, let's call him Todd, came in and forced us all to stand up. We did, and he told us all off for sleeping in our boxers. He said that we should sleep in the tracksuits. We put our tracksuits on, and as soon as he left, we took them off again. It was summer after all. The next few days were pretty much the
Sleeping in
same.
a
There were some
tracksuit?
fun activities, but they were always shadowed by the group leaders acting
there's
weird
serial
and very
killers
strict.
For sure.
The boys and girls weren't allowed to talk to each other. When we went swimming, we went in our tracksuits, and we were only really allowed to talk during these activities. Every meal we had to pray, and the leaders always said things like, the gods will show us the way to the end. And honestly, I was getting really creeped out. We did exciting activities, but we also had to do some more boring ones, like meditation. They also told us that if we wanted to stay after the 5 weeks, we could stay, and we could invite our families to live with us. One evening, I asked Bob if I could call home, just because I wanted to talk with my family. He said that my family was already told that I have arrived safely and I'm happy. I tried to argue it, but he was determined to not let me contact my family until the 5 weeks were up. I didn't know where they took my suitcase, so I had no way of contacting them. That evening, there was a campfire event, and it was integrated with a group therapy session. I asked to use the bathroom in the main building and sneaked off. There was a small office that was empty and the lights were off, so I went in and used the phone to call my home phone. I told my mom what was happening, and they told me that they'd come get me straight away. In the back of the office was another room filled with suitcases, and a plastic box filled with phones. It took me a while to find my phone, but I stuck it in my pocket and then tried to look for my suitcase. Whilst I was looking, Todd walked into the office and caught me. He practically dragged me out and sat me down in the hallway, yelling at me for disobeying the rules. He said I was trying to get to my clothes and it was a sin to be proud or something. He then took me back to the group and told the other group leaders in front of everyone else. The group leaders were then angry at everyone and started going over the rules. We were all sent to bed without dinner. In bed, I was on my phone, texting my dad, who said they were arriving now. I made sure that the other boys didn't see I had my phone. Eventually, my dad texted me saying something like, "We're outside, come now." So I pretty much jumped out of bed and ran out as fast as I could.
They probably
past
had
the
a
group
fake
leaders
address.
and tried to stop me from running out of the building. Down the dirt road to my mom's car at the edge of the campsite, the leaders chasing me. My dad got out of the car and locked me in the car with my mom. The group leaders were saying that I wasn't allowed to leave, that my parents signed a contract saying I can't leave until my 5 weeks are up. My dad refused and they tried to...
Okay, like these contracts are so binding. Like, dude, it's not an NDA with some big corporation that's gonna come and take all your assets and your property. Like, well, who gives a fuck about these stupid contracts?
The doors to get me out.
I'm so tired
Somehow
of
my
hearing
dad got
about
back
it.
into the car and the doors were locked before they could get me out.
So
And my
tired
parents
of
drove me
hearing
home.
about it.
At home, I told my parents everything. The next morning, Todd and some other group leaders were at my front door. My dad told them to go away as they still tried to get me to come back to the camp, but they wouldn't leave without me. My dad called the police and the police escorted them away. We couldn't see them, but we knew they were watching. I pretty much didn't leave the house for the rest of the summer, and I was constantly peering out of my window. When college started again, I left the house on my own for the first time to go get the bus, and as I walked down the road, I could hear Todd and the others calling after me. I tried to run, but there were around 10 of them. They surrounded me on the street. A few people from their houses heard the commotion, and I yelled out for them to call the cops. A few men came out and a fight started. I managed to run back to my house and lock myself in. The group leaders were arrested, but the next week a new group would show up in my area.
Contract.
Eventually we moved
signed
house. I
it.
stopped going to college and we had to start
It's
a whole
okay,
new
officer.
life.
He
We
signed a
don't live in
contract.
witness protection, but we use fake identities to stop them from finding us. My parents were in contact with the college and the police. The college stopped funding the group, and the police told us that they would start an investigation, and that Todd killed himself whilst on bail. I don't know much more than that, but I hope that everyone in the group are safe.
What a leader. He killed himself. Crazy.
So, as you might expect, a lot of speculation surfaced after this. On one hand, there were quite a few people claiming that this was fake, and on the other, people were baffled, wishing OP the best. Now, regardless of how you feel about his story now, there is more to it. Remember how I said that Reddit post histories allow us to take a deeper look into the lives behind the posters?
Yes.
That holds true here. Heading over to his profile presents us with quite a few interesting discoveries. In a comment that directly follows his post, he provides an update, claiming that he appreciates a supportive reaction and that he'd like to refrain from giving away too much information. Following this, he provides 5 notable bullet points, containing
real names.
1. In response to the questions about my phone dying, I didn't think it was worth mentioning that I turned it off before I handed it over. 2. I haven't heard from the teens since I left, and I haven't heard from the leaders since we moved house. There was an investigation a few years ago, and I don't know what happened to the group. 3. Some of you have guessed my country, but I still don't want to give away too much information about where I live. 4. The reason I won't expose the group is because it would be interfering with the police investigation. And 5. When I said we changed identity, I meant we unofficially started using a new surname, and only our closest relatives know this. As explained above, a group of the leaders were arrested and charged with harassment, however more people turned up soon after. He then closes off his post by claiming that he's been scared to even Google the group name in fear of being tracked down. A few other comments were posted by him in response to general questions afterwards, however they don't carry much weight. After these though, we can see an incredibly strange thread that he made over in the Help subreddit with the title, "How do I delete a message I posted?" With absolutely no other context provided, there were only 2 comments on this. One was by an actual helper on the sub that provided tips on how to do so, and another was from a Redditor that was following this story. Look at his only other post and look at the comments. This is creepy as hell.
The voice change.
And then he dropped a bomb. On February 3rd, in one last update comment on his original post, he proceeds to say this. This is not true. I was part of a therapy group that specializes in helping teenagers with mental health problems. It was not a cult.
It was not a cult.
Since then, I've decided to rejoin the group. I will answer no further questions on the matter.
All for the gods.
And that was it. Ominously, this comment fell on mostly deaf ears. With only 4 comments in the thread and 39 upvotes, the few that saw this were pretty baffled.
Yeah, this is fake as hell.
Now, this is quite a bit to unpack. With the wordage used in his last comment...
Like, why would you even go in... Like, okay, so if you really did go back and everything is this and that, why would you even go back to comment on it? Like, just let it go. Leave it be and let it go.
It sounds as if a third party is responding to accusations that were made in the story. It seems, at least to me, that the OP expresses himself pretty well. Why would he, out of nowhere, pull a total 180 and claim that this story is untrue in such an unnatural way? It just doesn't add up. With all of this in mind, we're able to run with 2 theories. Either 1, his story is real and the account was compromised by a cult leader that was attempting to discredit him, or 2, this entire thing is a hoax.
In the middle of the woods.
Let's focus on theory 1. Let's say that this is real. He was forced back into the program, and either his phone was taken again, or they have access to his computer. Okay, but what organization was it that could have done this? Now, it sounds like it could line up with religious cults such as People's Temple or Scientology. However, I wasn't able to dig up much at all regarding any sort of rehabilitation summer camps that connect to them. It might seem like a long shot to try to match up his experience with an actual verifiable account by someone, but hey, it doesn't hurt to try. There is one group that I wanted to discuss here that seems like it could potentially fit the bill. If we head back to the comments section on his original post, we can see that a user left a link to an article claiming that his experience sounds oddly similar to controversies that were taking place in a rehab group by the name of Teen Challenge. After looking into them a bit, it seems, like I said, that they could be a potential suspect. From Wikipedia, the Teen Challenge is a worldwide network of Christian faith-based corporations intended to help teenagers, adults, and families with problems such as substance abuse or self-destructive behavior. It was founded in 1960 and is headquartered in Ozark, Missouri.
Ozark? Like
Now,
the
at
show?
face value, this organization sounds legitimate
Guilty.
and seems like it has an innocent mission: help people of all ages out of self-destructive or addictive behavior. Interestingly though, if you perform a Google search of Teen Challenge Cult, for example, you can stumble upon countless posts about this group partaking in abusive acts at their summer camps. With this in mind, in that article that was shared, we're able to read up on the underbelly of the organization through a compilation of testimonies given by people that were put through the program. In one account, given by a parent of a student at the Teen Challenge affiliated school, Gateway Christian Military Academy, they claim this.
Horrific details.
They shaved him bald that first morning in 2008, put him in an orange jumpsuit, and made him exercise past dark. Through the night,
my
as he
God.
slept on the floor, they forced him awake for more. The screaming, the endless exercise, it was all in the name of God. In another testimony, someone
What
claimed,
if he was like
I
fat
was
and
at
they
Teen
felt that
Challenge
was a
in
sin, you
Pensacola,
know?
Florida for 2 months, and it was very much like a cult. A lot of brainwashing there. It made my problems worse, rather than better. I don't recommend Teen Challenge for anyone.
That's true. It did say it was like the military. That's
One
true.
leader threw Bibles at the residents and carried around a baseball bat to scare us. Now, we're able to draw some parallels between the group, their testimonies, and the Reddit story. For starters, OP isn't from the States.
Oh
In
yeah,
this comment
gluttony,
thread
you're
here,
right.
he basically confirms that he lives in another English-speaking country and also makes a comment about not being able to purchase a gun where he lives. With that in mind,
Canada.
that means that this organization would either have to be based in whatever country he's from or have to be worldwide. Going back to that original Wikipedia description, Teen Challenge definitely fits the bill here. Furthermore, they're a rehabilitative program that partners with schools and has religious undertones. They force attendees to wear jumpsuits.
But the big difference is that Teen Challenge claims to be Christian based, and the cult was thinking the gods in plural, which is not
At their camps,
It's not a sign of Christianity.
wake them up at night, and provide so-called
Just
help
my 2
to
cents.
people of all ages. Each of these carrying a parallel to the original story. Now, say his profile was compromised by a cult leader and he was somehow forced to rejoin. That would mean that they had aggressively hunted him down even after they moved,
Okay,
and
cult
either
leader.
coerced the parents into placing him back into
I'm a
it, or
detective,
potentially had dug
exactly,
up some
thank
sort of
you.
blackmail. That would mean that he likely returned to the camp again soon after. His phone was taken once more, and they likely tried to get into his account without him knowing, assuming that it isn't password protected.
Ooh.
Either that, or he's completely fine and they hacked him somehow, trying their hand at damage control, although this is pretty far-fetched in itself. I'm sorry, but a crazy religious rehabilitation hacker cult just sounds outrageous.
I agree. But
Going with theory number 2,
I don't think-
being that this is a hoax, we're able to pinpoint
they
some
just
holes
have
in the
not
story.
been hacked, that's all.
First off, with that "how do I delete a message I posted" thread in his post history, we can begin to
Listen, okay, boomers can't even log into their own accounts. What makes you think they're gonna be able to hack into yours? All
rip
right?
his logic apart.
It's just not gonna happen.
How on earth is someone capable of logging into a Reddit account, navigating to the help subreddit specifically, and creating a post about deleting a post without actually knowing how to delete something? It's incredibly rudimentary, and
I need
anyone
help,
with
Lord.
any sort of internet knowledge would know how to do this with ease. Furthermore, in his original update comment, he claims that he's scared to even Google the group name in fear of them tracking him down. Regarding the cult name, this implies that, well, he doesn't have one. Is, for example, Teen Challenge sitting there and monitoring every IP address that Googles their organization's name? Does that put you on some sort of watch list? It isn't even possible for the public to reverse track people that search up certain terms, which leads me to believe that this guy is either being overly paranoid or he doesn't have a group name at all. Lastly, he claims in his original story that he didn't leave the house for the rest of the summer. However, right when he finally does, the cult leaders surround him. So you're meaning to tell me that with all of the other people that could be taking part in this crazy cult, they had an undying focus on him and him only. Even digging for organization leaders that committed suicide after being released on bail, somewhat of a very specific instance, provides little to no results. You would think, being only 2 years ago, that this would send a shockwave across the internet. If Teen Challenge, or any other cult for that matter, were the ones involved, wouldn't there be reports about it?
True.
Tweets? Facebook posts?
True.
Like I said, there are a lot of inconsistencies, and it's hard to look past them.
Now, I don't know anything about Teen Challenge. I've never heard of it. Could very well be a cult. I have no idea. But
all in all,
I'm just
Teen Challenge
saying,
is a religious
I agree with him.
rehabilitation
There's a lot of
organization that has had their
discrepancies.
fair share of controversies throughout the years. The parallels between the testimonials given by attendees and OP's original story are evident. However, with the lack of verifiable evidence that was given in his post, it's hard to pinpoint what exactly it was that happened to him and who it was that did it. Either he's back in this cult and in potential trouble, or this entire thing was nothing more than a very comprehensive, scary story.
It's just a scary story,
Nonetheless,
bro. Relax.
it's an incredibly entertaining one, and if he ever comes back to Reddit to do the potential update he mentioned, I'd love to get some more insight into his experience. Throwaway181718 was stuck in a cult. Whether or not it was fictional, his story was indeed a well-written one. With it being just 2 years old, perhaps he'll be back, but if not, it looks as if it'll sit in internet mystery history for good. So, what do you think?
Story, for sure. I also
So much
think
for watching.
what
I'll
we
see you
can
in the
take
next
away
one.
from this
I love you all.
is
And
maybe
good night.
being careful who you give your whole home address, social security, mom's name, dad's name, last name, first name, birthday, like all that shit right away. Like, you know, maybe not sign up for everything under the sun with all your personal information all at once. Who knows?